Yeah, we're gonna just invite the people into the room. Maybe they will be here. Maybe they will start chatting with us.
Splendid.
Well, you used to teach, right? Like theater
I
and,
did.
and literature.
Yes. I started out teaching, the mucking up the tables of um being a humanities professor in a kind of intro comp. So,
Intro comp. That's Carlos teaches that, I think.
oh, and I loved it. I taught intro comp at a bunch of different art schools in Minneapolis, mostly the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and um, and everyone was terrified of it because they're all art majors and they think like if I could write, I would write novels instead of painting and illustrating and drawing. Um, but they were really good writers. They were just convinced otherwise.
Right, right. I think Carlos says half of his job is just to tell people, "Oh wow, you're really good. Here's a few things to work on." But like, so many people just think they aren't, and then despair.
Yeah, they're terrified. They're terrified, and especially the first year students, most unbelievably linguistically sophisticated while speaking out loud.
Yeah.
And then, and it's a familiar terror, but they sit down to type something up and they say, how words
How
work.
I think
And
Carlos and I talk about it too. It's like, he says he encourages them to sometimes use the dictate function. Get the first draft out. Like if you have trouble thinking it, think it out loud. Speak it like you just spoke so beautifully, and then you have something to work on.
yes, I love the E.M. Forrester quote, how do I know what I think until I see what I say?
Yeah, and especially if you're like, oh, I think that's the product of years of wrongful pedagogy. I better change the way I think, but it's uncomfortable, and that's an interesting thing we've been talking about. Is like this desire to be frictionless and comfortable versus the desire to engage with your own discomfort and try to get better, get good.
Yes. It was fun. I loved it. And eventually, so I taught intro comp for like 7 years. And then I kept teaching it while also getting to teach creative writing.
And then did you ever get to actually teach theater?
Well, yes, I used to teach mostly summer workshops.
Oh,
When I
fun!
was working with, one or another sort of summer stock Shakespeare company. Um, so it was mostly summer workshops and like after school stuff for theater, and otherwise, teaching courses, I would just steal theater stuff and turn it into creative writing stuff,
Ah,
and
do
just
you like? Is your first draft sometimes a play?
comes first.
Okay, Carlos, I think we've got a few people in the chat. I think we're ready to go live with our faces. What do you think?
I think so. Right now, the chat is only in follower mode, just in case you wanted to open it up to everybody. Maybe you just want to be followers, or
I
maybe.
didn't. I didn't. No. I think I did followers on purpose. How do I open it up if I wanted to? I'll figure it out for next time.
Okay, so in the meantime, everybody should be a follower, and that way you'll be able to join us in the chat, everybody. But welcome
Follow me. Also, you
to.
can always unfollow me after this.
You don't want to encourage that. That's not what we want.
No.
We want you to follow, and we want you to see people like Will Alexander. So welcome, everybody, to this Monday's episode of Fiction Impossible. We have...
Hernandez, the Scanlons are in the audience.
Oh,
Rachel.
what? We got some Scanlons? I have to look at my chat on my phone here. So, hello, yes, wonderful people, awesome. Yes, hello. Thank you for coming today.
Titleist Rex.
We have the National Book Award-winning author Will Alexander, who we get to say is also a friend of ours. Will is actually going to come crashing into New York City later this week, and he's going to have a bunch of events in his whirlwind New York tour for his new book, Sunward, which we're going to talk about today. But so, Claire, I think you have a little introduction that you can
I
give
do.
for
I'm
Will.
just saying hello to everybody. Timeless Rex. All right. Don't want anybody to feel left out. I'm just so happy the chat is here. Hello, the chat. Okay. William Alexander is the author of Goblin Secrets and Other Unrealisms for young readers. His work has won the National Book Award, the Eleanor Cameron Award, the Librarian Favorites Award, that is no small feat, the Teacher Favorites Award, also huge, and 2 Junior Library Guild selections and 2 CBC Best Children's Books of the Year awards. Most recently, he wrote this beautiful book, Sunward. We just got this from our local library, too. His first novel for grown-ups forthcoming, as now having come out from Saga Press in September, just last month, and co-edited the middle grade anthology Star Stuff, 10 science fiction stories to celebrate new possibilities. Star Stuff, Will is showing it off, and I'll just have you know that my co-host and spouse, Carlos Hernandez, has a short story in this collection called something about space bees, Carlos.
Yeah, it's basically like stop freaking out. It's only space bees.
Yes. Yes.
And as a small child, just the last addendum of Will's bio, as a small child, Will honestly believed that his Cuban American family came from the lost island of Atlantis. This is so great. Welcome, Will.
Yay! Welcome, Will. All right.
Both. It is thrilling to be here.
Yeah.
Hosting.
We cannot wait to hear more about Sunward. We can't wait to hear you read from Sunward. We've prepared questions about Sunward. And in fact, I want to start with a little bit of a question about your cover. I'm going to do it like a transition here so you can see the cover more closely here, chat. And what you will notice is something that is missing from this promotional picture that I stole from Amazon that is actually on the cover. So Claire, if you will, let me shrink this now. How do you shrink this stupid thing? If you will hold up the cover.
Right by where it says a novel.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you can get like real close. See right there? Yeah, that's where that A is. There's like a secret little spaceship that they snuck into the cover there. What's up with that, Will?
Yeah. Carlos like took a picture of it and like made it really big today. He's like, is that a spaceship?
It's not on my cover.
Do you have the arc?
I do somewhere.
Oh, I didn't know if what you had right now is the arc because
No.
we have
No,
what
this is-
we just bought it. We just bought it from I guess it could be a scratch, Carlos. But I
No,
think it's
that's not a
spaceship.
scratch. That means something.
That has to be a ship. Yeah. Also, the you can't even see. There's these could be sunspots or flares, but there are also a lot of ships. There's a lot of ships in this part.
But do you have a soft cover in your hand?
Yeah.
Yours looks like a different color than mine too. Maybe it's just the light. Are you sure you don't have the tiniest little spaceship by the word A for a novel?
I don't see any ship.
This is totally a conspiracy. Or, they
No
planted a
ship
chip in
on
our
it.
book that they didn't give to other people.
Or we nicked our book and it nicked it into spaceship shaped.
I mean, I took
Sorry,
a
guys.
close-up of it. That's a spaceship, damn it.
It looked like a ship
Yeah.
to me.
Titleist
Also.
Rex asks if it's maybe a space bee.
Calm down. It's just space bees on the cover of your book. Amazing. So now you have something to ask your publisher tomorrow. I want answers. Like, did they stick like a little tiny ship? Because the thing that got me is like, usually if it's a space book, what they do is they slap a humongous spaceship on the front of it. Like that's usually what happens. And what makes this cover so interesting and beautiful is you have this almost like music of the spheres going on with these massive globes and, black holes and all of these things going on. But then if they stick a little ship in that, I would really love that. And if they didn't do that and I just like scratched my book, then I'm a genius.
You scratched it
are.
in the shape of a spaceship.
You just
Yes,
make
so-
accidental spacecraft wherever you go.
Oh, apophenia by science fiction writers. It is like pattern recognition at its finest. Look, a moat. Is it a space moat?
Space everything.
Space
Moat in
everything.
Carlos's eye.
So, Will, maybe what you can do is tell us a little bit about like what this book is for the audience at home, and then we'll have you read a little bit.
Fantastic. Okay, this book, my first book for grown-ups, and it sounds so very grown-up to call it that, is it started as a short story published in Sunday Morning Transport, where both of you have also put words. And
Oh, yeah. That was our superhero story.
That's right.
Yes.
Right. Sorry.
And it was a short story that came out of, I guess, first and foremost, pandemic parenting,
Ah.
which was a very science fictional experience all by itself. And the sort of just it was both cozy and fun, and yay, we're all home working, and we're in communication with the rest of the universe, and in a happy little fuzzy bubble of surrounded by horrors and the void of space and plague. And it was it was an interesting experience, pandemic parenting and pandemic teaching
And pandemic writing.
and pandemic writing.
Right.
And so it came right out of that, of just when your spaceship and your shelter against the void is also kind of a school, kind of a daycare.
It's your spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I sort of smooshed that together with like ideas from, well, some from Astro Boy, the classic manga, and some from Ted Chiang's novella, The Life Cycle of Software Objects, where he picks a fight with the science fictional idea that we can just make a person as a shortcut, like make an adult functional person. Whether cloning somebody, I mean, you really clone somebody and you get a baby.
Yeah.
You get an identical twin with a serious age gap. You don't get a duplicate.
Right. You don't get an adult duplicate with your own brain.
Right.
Yeah.
And likewise, I'm just gonna code a fully functional AI person. Da, 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 ding.
Yeah.
And then and Ted was like, no, you gotta, I mean, to have an intelligence that can interact with the world, you need to foster them and introduce them to the world. And it'll probably take about as long as that takes with a human.
Yeah.
So got,
That's a lot of if-then statements to train.
yes, lots. And so that sort of, and generally horrible things happen, and we're watching some of them happen when you try and take a shortcut to making a consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Not to draw any sort of direct parallel between AI, as we have long talked about them in science fiction books, and the way we use the word now, which is something entirely different.
Right. Yeah. LLMs. Carlos and I try to keep using that language instead, but it's like,
yes.
What's useful when people understand current AI as something and they're calling it AI? Is it more useful to try to force another word on it or use the slang and then discuss it pertinently?
Yeah, I use Gen AI a lot for that, just because it gets the word AI in there, but it separates it as well. And I'm gonna ask you more about that, because it's a very interesting position that you take in the book. Especially like around the 12th night set piece that happens somewhere in the middle back end of the book, because I think a lot of people who are worried about AI might be like, Will, are you pro AI? And I think we should add a little nuance to the conversation once we get there. But I think first we should listen to a little bit of the story, if you're ready.
Yay!
Okay, absolutely, sure. I'm just going to start. I keep trying to read a chapter from the middle, and none of them make any sense. I'm just out of context. I'm just going to read the first chapter. Okay. Agatha Panza von Sparkles settled into Needle's pilot seat for the very first time. It was much too big for her. We had to adjust all the straps. I hovered while her mechanical fingers settled over the controls. Steady. I know. Stay focused. I know. Then she got distracted anyway. There's a debris field up ahead. We should investigate, right? I think that we should definitely do that. Maybe we'll find some survivors to rescue. I pulled up my own display of the debris. I don't think so, kiddo. Whatever happened over there doesn't look survivable. Can I go see? Agatha asked. I knew what she was asking, but I pretended not to know. You're the one flying. Bring us closer. She shook her head with precision. 45 degrees to the right, 45 to the left, and then back to center. No, I mean really see. You want to dive into the data stream? Yes. No. Just a peek? No. I promise to come right back. Absolutely not. Agatha Panza Sparkles. Full names have power. She tilted her head 45 degrees downward, which meant sulking. Fine, Captain Mom. That was new. She'd never called me Captain Mom before. None of my charges ever had. I didn't know whether or not I liked the sound of it. They usually started with Captain, or even Captain Tova Lear, if they liked to savor the fullness of names and titles, and then settled into calling me Tova once we got to know each other. Juvenile AI need to be embodied. They require the anchored limitation of a single robotic chassis until after they mature. Otherwise, a baby bot will split their attention by splitting themselves into smaller and smaller fragments, one separate piece for every shiny thing that they notice and decide to chase. And those pieces will drown in the data stream, unable to reassemble themselves. My side gig for the past 7 years has been babysitting baby bots. These toddler-sized kids leave the nest after a full year, when they have grown enough self-cohesion and reached the bot age of majority. Sometimes gendered identities emerge, sometimes not. Sometimes they name themselves, sometimes they make suggestions. Agatha announced her full name during our first run to Saturn's Phoebe station, and now we are on our way back to Luna. She slowed us down to examine the puzzle pieces of debris that littered our route. It used to be a ship, Agatha said. She had stopped sulking about the death stream, which was nice. This kid didn't hold a grudge. Now she seemed content to focus on the visual display, even though plugging directly into shipboard systems would have been faster. That was the problem. Data streams have rushing currents and deadly undertow. Agatha wasn't a strong enough swimmer yet. A little ship, smaller than ours, just big enough for a crew of 1. That little ship had been smashed into itty-bitty bits, which only ever happened on purpose. Catastrophic accidents might leave gaping holes, but the rest of the structure remains more or less intact. No part of this wreck was still intact. We need to go, I said. Immediately. We need to be on our way and already forgetting that we ever saw any of this. Agatha ignored me. Maybe she was still sulking after all. Maybe she just tuned me out while the display claimed her full and absolute attention. There's a body. No, we couldn't leave. I managed not to curse in front of the kid. Okay. Show me. An image of a vac suit filled the main display. It had drifted a fair distance, which meant that the single crew member had successfully abandoned ship before all the pulverizing happened. Do you think they're still alive? Agatha asked. No. Check the temperature inside that suit. 3 kelvins. She sounded sad. That's very cold. Freezing isn't a bad way to die, I told her. Now, scoot over. Let me drive. Agatha didn't protest. I settled into my chair and shifted course, matching the body's path away from the event that had gotten them killed. Are we going to pick up the dead person? Yes. Even though it's too late to help them? Yes. Why? Because they were probably a courier, just like us? That was a strong argument for not picking them up. I'm impressed that you put that together. You shouldn't be. She sounded annoyed, like I had just set off her condescension alarm. That was new. Most single-crewed craft are piloted by couriers, and it is not impressive that I noticed. Are we going to deliver their message, whatever it is, now that they're too dead to do it themselves? Definitely not, I said. We are going to send that body home, just as soon as we figure out where home is. Why? Because it's terrible to lose someone at sea. You never find out if the lost sailor decided to leave you behind or if they died while trying to come back to you. Agatha's eyes made little whirring noises as she focused on my face. I expected her to nitpick the differences between seafaring and space travel, but the kid got all insightful instead. Did you lose someone that way? A month ago, she would not have been able to put that together. I was proud of her, but didn't say so. Yes, I did. One of my moms flew away, never came back. Mama CJ, the one who carried me. Because you're mammals. That's right, I said. We're mammals. The only non-mammalian form of biological life that Agatha had met so far was a smuggled pet iguana. She'd named him Ferdinand. We kept him fed, delivered him to Phoebe, filed no complaints about improper transport. Why did your mother fly away? She was a courier. Like us? Like us. One of the best. I want to be one of the best, Agatha said. I don't, I told her. Excellence is dangerous. The best couriers get chased down, intercepted, bribed, and or blown up whenever powerful people want their messages redirected, delayed, or destroyed, unread, which is pretty much all the time. Better to stick with third-class deliveries. Agatha pointed at the main display. Do you think that this courier got chased down and blown up? Yes, probably. I concentrated on nudging our guest into the main airlock by gently maneuvering the ship to surround them. Which is why we are going to remain actively disinterested in whatever message they carry. The kid didn't understand disinterest. Curiosity is a near universal juvenile trait, so I let her take charge of one mystery in order to distract her from any of the others. Go examine the body. Try and figure out who it used to be and which place they called home. She bounced off every wall on her way to the airlock. Skipping a bit, setting descriptions, stuff that's only important later. I followed Agatha and hovered on the other side of the inner hatch. It is hard not to hover when kids play in airlocks, even when those kids don't need to breathe. Check the tags once you get the helmet off. I know, she said. Let me concentrate. The helmet clasps took a while. Agatha was still building up her fine motor control. She hummed a tune that she liked because she found the math funny, and finally removed the helmet. No decompression. The eyes and tongue didn't pop inside the helmet. That would have been messy. Don't forget the tags. I know. I heard the cold metal necklace clink as she tugged it free. Name, Michael Cuneo, gendered male, 29 standard years old, courier, first class. Of course he was. What about home? Next of kin? Guild number? None listed. The only thing stamped on the second tag is a circle surrounded by radiating lines. Oh, I said, okay. That changes things. What does it mean? His last wish. That circle's a picture of the sun. I spent the next 2 hours answering insatiably curious questions about sun cults and funeral customs. People want to be thrown into the sun. Yes, lots of them do. Why? They think of it as going home. Agatha shook her head several times, but only slightly, with just a 5-degree shift to either side, and that meant she was laughing. Nobody's from the sun. Nothing was born, hatched, or coded on the sun. It's too hot. True. It's still where we began, though. The sun was our only source of heat and light when people were growing up earthbound, before we could make heat, light, or life work elsewhere. And we still have it left to live near any other sun. This is our only solar system. We only exist because Sol was here first. We can only survive here for as long as Sol lasts. Which is how long? 7 billion years? Maybe 8? I hope it's 8. Me too. What happens after that? Well, the sun will swell up, swallow all the planets, and then burn out. Agatha took 7 seconds to process the entropic death of the solar system. So all our elements are going to end up inside the sun anyway. Yes, eventually. Meanwhile, everybody who opts for solar cremation gets to be part of what gives light and life to other things. Is that what you want, she asked, after you die? No, waste of fuel to get there. Turn me into fertilizer for bubble gardens instead. I'd rather be tiny pieces of plants drinking redirected sunlight than plasma burning up to make the stuff. I didn't ask what Agatha would want done with her current chassis if she should ever cease to inhabit it, mostly because it wasn't her decision to make. The manufacturers would reassert ownership over her component parts in the event of a return to factory default settings. Agatha thoughtfully focused and unfocused her big glass eyes. Michael Cuneo wanted to burn. That's what his tags tell us, I said. No rush, though. Put his helmet back on. We'll keep him safely tucked away until after we make our scheduled deliveries, and then we'll throw him into the sun. That's for good.
Thank you, Agatha. I just love her.
Yeah, me too.
There is just like a beautiful kid's voice that you've captured there, the impatience with the parent that I think moves us into fairly uncanny realms of like, oh, that's how AI are going to develop, like just like children do right now,
And that incredible leap from last month you would not have been able to make that leap of insight. This month you can. Just watching like my 1-year-old nephew from one week to another and the rapidity of change, and that happens throughout all of childhood, which is only observable by an adult, in that way. I love that. So like why don't you trust me? Well, a month ago I wouldn't have been able to trust you, but to them it's so obvious. They know this stuff.
Yes. And they figure it out before they can actually physically do it. Like, infants know how to walk. It's just a matter of, okay, I have weird connections between my brain and my leg and some muscles to build.
Yeah, I see it happening all around me. It seems fairly obvious. Why do I keep falling?
Yep.
Well,
Train up.
There's that great Ira Glass NPR, who was like an episode years ago, but it affected me so deeply. It's like, everybody is a better critic than a writer to begin with. You know what you like and you know what's working and you know definitely what you don't like, but you can't necessarily produce what you like yet. And like I never thought of it like in terms of also that's walking before, learning to crawl before you can walk. I mean, it's just the way we develop, with some notable exceptions.
So I think this gets to right at the heart of what you introduced us to, but also just what the book's about, like what exactly this book is about. And it's really a very interesting sort of like hearse novel, like where you're basically trying to ship a body that we were introduced to the sun, and it ain't easy. But also it is a book very much about parenting and very much about what it means to help a life to grow, and how much of your children are in your control and how much they aren't. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of like how? I have two different questions. I'll start with the easier one. The easier one is basically how this became a plot for you. Like it's one thing to say like I want to write about sort of like parenting, but how did you turn it into what ended up being an extremely tight, very action-packed, very page-turnery short novel? Like it's about a 200-page novel, and it is just like the action is like boom. So it is a slim little puppy. The word you kept using was like it's incredibly efficient. It is. It's terse and efficient, and we'll talk about the prosody of it also. But just to start, just like what was the movement from like I want to write about sort of like this. I want to write about a dead body I'm flying around with, which all of us do, of course. But the other thing is like about I want to turn this into like this parenting book into a plot. What was that process like?
That was bonkers. I really love. Just to go back to the cover, I really love that it says a novel. I love just the chutzpah of it. Like this is it looks like a novella. It is novella sized. But how many words is it? I forget. If it's over 40,000, if, as I learned with Desdemona in the Deep, if it's 41,000 words, then it's a novel and not a novella. Then it qualifies. I never cracked 50,000. So I thought it was so unfair. So like when they say 50,000 is a novel, but over 40,000 is no longer a novella, I'm like, well, what does that mean? No, what's in the limbo? And I really, like 14-year-old me fantasizing about growing up to become a novelist, I assumed I would write door stoppers. Sure. And you might, since you were writing a novella like me when I was writing Desdemona in the Deep. I had 3 accidental novels out before my Doorstopper came out, but
I always considered even the novel length novellas, I still considered novellas because they were meant to be. And in my mind, that makes all the difference.
Excellent. Well, you will continue to be an inspiration, and maybe my doorstopper will still come. But
Oh,
so
it
far-
will. Only if you
so
want
far,
it to.
it's short.
But to get back
But
to
this
the original question, the
sorry.
original
Yes,
question is sort of like, how did you fashion the plot out of this desire to do basically what is like a sort of like parenting novel, from a mom's perspective?
Yeah.
And I love that buried in that question is the near impossibility of writing to theme.
Yeah.
Like, you can't write a book about parenthood.
Unless you're
I-
writing nonfiction to spec.
Doug Wright, playwright, apparently I heard him talk at an interview, and he said that he was commissioned a play about home. Just write a play about home. And he
Oh,
said
dear.
something like, "Look, I could write a play about 3 elder women, a porcelain dog, and a hammer, but I cannot write a book about home." And
Which is
Um,
funny because anthologies come out on subjects all the time, and then that's interpretable.
exactly, and
Interesting.
I find that really weird writing for anthologies. Like, it's like you have to put the theme on the back burner and then figure out what you're actually going to write about.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully informed by that simmering theme. So the simmering theme of parenthood, and I guess I'll blame the pandemic. Just, it's a book about parenthood and it's a book about death. There's just and then, as you mentioned, Twelfth Night works its way in, because I've always loved that comedy is hilarious and it's also all about death. And you wrote it at
And
the
being
same
lost at sea.
and being lost at sea, and he wrote it at the same time as Hamlet. Like, he's like, they're both plays about not having any idea how to grieve,
Huh.
and also other stuff. So the plot took shape when I realized that. So I wrote the first chapter is essentially the short story,
Right, right.
and I thought, no, she's been doing this for a while. That means she has kids everywhere. So it's sort of like Andor. I have friends everywhere. She has kids everywhere.
Ha.
And I thought, I want to meet them. I want to know what they're doing in the world, in the worlds. I want to know how they're thriving. And so those became sort of touch points, like the islands in the Odyssey is just, I want to meet these kids. And so the plot grew around a tension between a whimsical travelogue of, let's get the family together, combined with the urgency of, all right, at least 2 of these kids are in mortal peril. So we're getting the whole family together in order to save 1 or 2 or more. And that tension between an urgent rescue mission and also a whimsical, fun family reunion is pretty much what gave the whole thing shape as I moved along.
It's like what you say, Carlos, how character is plot.
Yeah.
It's like the desire to meet these characters gave you the plot and impetus, but also if you're, here you are in the pandemic, and if like the isolation of your pod is the spaceship metaphor, and the wider world that's so full of danger, you have your own kids who are in peril, and you yourself, like when thinking about death all the time, but also like this unmitigated family time, which had many fruitful things as a part of it, including all the hard things too. It's like such an interesting space to be writing this story. I've been very curious about the stuff that's being published now is the stuff was written in 2020 and 2021,
Right.
because this is this year, and to some extent late last year was when that was starting to come out. And it'd be so interesting if somebody makes a study of it later, like the dissertation of pandemic sci-fi and fantasy writing and horror, which was put on the back burner in the early 2020 2022. Anything that came out in that time that was horror was, and then now the rise of horror because people needed to process it, and the time is now. It's pretty cool.
Really, really interesting. I also want to say, like, this is definitely like the one of the main critical paths that the novel takes. But to say we're talking about parenting does not do justice to the fact that there is so much ass kickery and explodery that goes on in this novel. That, you know, this mama fights, and so like, you know, besides little Easter eggs that you throw in, like, one of the weapons of choice for much, not all, but much of the novel is a cane, you know, which I think is a pretty interesting and deliberate choice. But this is a mama who can fight, and you know, there's a pretty epic fight that happens there in the middle that, like I said, it gets explodey and you know, fiery, but it leads to the question of the kinds of research that you did to make the fights make sense for this science fiction novel. That is, these aren't fights where blow, blow, blow. These are fights like, if you poke a hole in my spacesuit, I die. I leak air, and if I inhale, my lungs will explode, sort of thing. So, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to write your action sequences with all the fighty and boomy, but doing it so that it made sense in a scientific science fiction venue like this one?
Yes. How?
Implicit in that question is the evaluation that it did ultimately make sense. And so I'm delighted.
It was. I sucked it all in, swallowed it whole, believed it completely, digested it, and was nourished by it.
The verisimilitude was on point.
I love it because, again, I wanted to do things that are so ludicrously bonkers, and then manage to sell them as real, like and bits of, and it's set 1,000 years in the future where things could be very, very, very different. We have, you know, cultish, repressive sun worshippers, and just already that things can burn in space. We've got candles on funeral barges, oxygen infused candles.
Yeah.
Burning in space. We've got like flammable goop. And so I've got, you know, a huge, ridiculous fight with flaming weapons in vacuum. And I wanted to throw so much realism at this absurdity. I love, apparently my students tell me they've quoted me as saying things that I don't remember saying. Like, if you're going to put a unicorn in a kitchen, you have to convince me that it's a real kitchen.
It's really great.
This strange mimetic blend of ridiculous counterfactual premise and then doing the work to make it concrete in whatever way possible. I love that. I love finding the authenticating detail in the ridiculous setting that makes you believe it's real.
But how did you do that? Who did you consult? What did you read? I'm interested in that.
Okay. Some of it is just having a scientist dad who never stops talking. So, like, ever. I don't know how much of this, and sometimes I can sort of direct him. Like, okay, Dad, back to space elevators. How do space elevators work? You know, and I can get some stuff there before he's off onto something else. So part of it's just that, and little things, you know, just like checking to see what the relative gravity is on different places, because of course we're not used to that mostly in a watching TV sort of way. There's only so much you can do in the studio to make this or that moon or planet different from standard Earth 1 gravity. So no matter where you are, everything sort of looks the same in terms of how people move. But just, and the cane is part of this, thinking about physicality. So proprioception is fantastic and invisible until you lose it. Mm. And so it's one of my favorite little medical words. It's like it's a sense of yourself in space. Mm. And a sense of yourself in motion, as a body in motion.
Right.
So
We talk about
and
having
it's
five senses, but proprioception is another sense that we have. We have many more than five senses, and this is another one of them.
and it's an emergent one. It's a cumulative one made up of so many others.
Hmm.
It's like it's a combination of touch and sight and whatever your inner ear is doing, and then and if it's working, we remain completely unaware of it. We're just
Right.
like, yep, gonna walk across the room. And then if something happens, even just getting an ear infection as a kid, and then suddenly your balance is off, and then wait, how do I walk across the room again? And your proprioception's scrambled. Um, and um, and yeah, I had significant back surgery many years ago, which I think makes me technically a cyborg because there's a lot of titanium in there. And sometimes I walk with a cane, sometimes I don't.
When somebody
Um,
calls you precious, they mean it literally. You're made up of precious metals.
yes, yes, I'm made of titanium. I'm Wolverine, and and it's like before I ever used the cane, I thought it was mostly for leaning on, like for putting your weight on, and it's not necessarily. It's information. It's having another point of contact with the ground.
Oh, interesting.
It's and just that sort of tactile sense of, okay, where is the ground, and is it still where I put it?
Huh.
Because if you're relearning how to walk, then you're rebuilding your sense of yourself in space. And so that, which everyone would have to do in an unfamiliar gravity. So it wasn't that difficult to extrapolate a sort of disability experience to to an experience where other circumstances in which, as for me, gravity was not necessarily behaving the way my body expected it to for one reason or another. And how do you navigate that? How do you move through it? How do you fight through it? There's
Yeah.
lots of martial arts forms that use canes. I like cane swords. I have put a cane
That's
sword
isn't that
in
how the
every book.
suffragists were trained in the 19th century? Was cane fighting, right?
And also gentlemen of the 19th century, yeah. I keep calling it the wrong thing, so I don't want to say it. But, well, okay, I'll say it. Like, I keep calling it bastinado, but it's not that. Don't Google that
Yes.
either.
Isn't bastinado the torture where they whack your feet with canes?
Yeah, it's like something terrible like that. Like,
Yeah.
there's some other thing, like
It's like a B
Bartistu.
word,
Yeah, it's
though.
Bartistu or Baritstu or Baritza, something like that.
Nom de combat.
I've got books on it back there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know where they are.
But yeah, but cane fighting, I mean, absolutely a thing.
Bartitsu. Bartitsu. I don't know how to pronounce
What
it.
what a lewd emphasis you placed on that, my darling. But so, what I loved about the combat though is because we expect combat, but the combat here was silent sometimes. Depending on where they were in space, and like we don't expect fire, and then we had fire, and then people die in silence. All of these really eerie, cool elements that awaken the imagination when you think about, oh yeah, right, I forgot about that. That's how it would happen in space. So
Yeah, some of the I haven't finished it yet, so I'm looking forward to some of the combat. But like, I really, I just in that opening first section, there were like throwaway lines that I was like, it would have taken me 3 hours of research for that. Why I'm scared of writing science fiction, but like the fungal bread, or the lamps that are bioluminescent algae, we're like, oh, that's fuel efficient. If that's right, like some of it is your world building mind, and some of it is like how much of it's coming directly from like NASA thought experiments, and it was just like kind of like mind blowing to read it and be like, oh, this is so great, this is so great. Fungal bread, that's right, that's such a great idea. And then like okay, like there were like line after line of that was like really opening me up. So I can't wait. You said there's flaming swords in space, because even that line about the oxygen infused candles and how there was not enough oxygen to make them teardrop shaped, so there were little round sun like things. I was
balls.
like, can you infuse wax with oxygen? Would that work? Like, Will said so, so I guess it must.
And there is video and photographs of candles burning on the space station as
Amazing,
as
amazing.
like candles in microgravity,
Right.
just burning as tiny little suns. So that's real. That's real. Astronauts have done it. They took pictures.
I just trust you implicitly, which is why you're making the kitchen very real. If you throw in a unicorn, I'll just be like, I guess we're having horse for dinner tonight, you know?
Um, yeah,
Nobody said you had to eat
horn
the
is a
unicorn,
spice.
Claire.
I thought we were gonna feed the unicorn, but no, maybe not. I mean, it's probably
Sparkly meat,
delicious.
guys. I'm into it.
Delicious.
All right.
It's like
Also-
vanilla.
Oh, one more thing about the combat. Though.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because parenting, because mama bear rage, like just that. I mean, it's a book about parenting, and it's also a book about when your kids are in danger, and what do you do when they come for your kids?
Yeah.
And
Flame
then
swords, apparently.
then you fuck shit up. And also, there's just the sort of the machismo and the posturing of combat so often. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, if you've bulked up your shoulders, it doesn't matter where nothing weighs anything.
Exactly. Yeah, and I
Like-
mean, yeah, you had a moment there where one of the villains there, you got a good up close look, and I don't want to give too much away, but you could clearly see that he was presenting gender aggressively. I remember that language, and the fact that very soon things were going to go very badly for him and his crew because they just didn't know how to operate in this kind of gravity. They just weren't trained.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not like Captain Mom.
exactly.
So, before we get too far here, Will, I got to ask you the question that's the elephant in the room, I think. In this moment where the Authors Guild has successfully sued for $1.5 billion, I think, from AI. What was it, Anthropic, for the plagiarism, and like it's likely that you and I and Claire all are going to be getting payouts from this sort of thing. You have a character who is an AI who does a novel translation of Twelfth Night, and the argument there is that there are laws in place that make it so that AI are not supposed to create. And one of the characters in the book says that, oh yes, that's an outdated law from a time before when people didn't know how to use AI properly. So are you positing that at some point when we, quote, learn to use AI properly, we should absolutely be having these creative AI who are doing things like translating Shakespeare?
Oh,
You gonna put
Okay.
him on the record?
Yeah.
let me walk through how it happened
Yeah, okay.
as a way of building up to an answer.
Sure.
And one thing that I kind of regret is even keeping the letters AI in the book,
Yeah.
because because now, I mean, I think Martha Wells uses MI now for machine intelligence, and there's other, and we talked earlier, 20 minutes ago, we were talking about changing how we refer to generative machine text now.
LLMs versus AI, yeah.
Exactly. But also, I think we're going to see shifts in terminology in the science fiction to further distinguish it. So I'm like halfway through writing the book, and then I'm noticing stuff about ChatGPT, and all of my friends who are still teaching intro comp are now having a much harder time of it, as essays can just be pulled from the ether. And I thought, oh, do I have to address this somehow? Because I'm writing about robots who are people who are not necessarily considered people in a long science fiction tradition of
Right.
robot as other, as legitimate entity in its own right. But also, I mean, going way back, I've got, here we go. Yeah, Rosarian Press put this out. The word robot was first coined in this play, which is now a graphic novel, an Eastern European play, that is a comic, and you can get it from Rosarium Press. And um, so labor and exploitation has been part of
Yeah.
robot stories since the beginning. So yeah, I'm working in a science fictional tradition of robots as people who are not treated as people.
Right.
And also robots as just this generational idea that gets tossed around sometimes, that like, are we creating a new species? Are we creating a new form of life? What is that parent-child relationship constitute on a massive collective level?
Right.
Um, and so I'm thinking along those lines, and then suddenly they're making AI that are not conscious entities, but can steal all of our books and pretend to write some. And I thought, ugh. So I fantasized that in the present, the ideal thing would happen, which is that we outlaw them immediately. Like, it is just, and so it's utopian in that sense, of just like, no, this is bad. There's nothing good about this. This drastically decreases critical thinking, uses immense amount of electricity, boils the seas.
Yeah.
We're boiling the sea and hastening the end times so that people can cheat on their homework and have imaginary girlfriends. And there's nothing, and drastic disinformation. It's all bad. It's all bad. So I imagined, what if in the past, which is now, we outlawed this completely? Yay. That is my position. That
Right.
this should not exist. I'm glad we are going to get a little bit of payout for the fact that they stole from all of us, but I wish that they were in fact sued out of existence.
Yeah.
Because there's no benefit to these large language models. It's all downside. But then I thought, okay, 1,000 years in the future, I'm imagining robots who are people. Are they going to be haunted by some of the archaic laws that we make? If robot poetry is illegal, what if in 1,000 years we have a robot who wants to write poetry?
Right. Right.
And what is that sort of and as a generational thing too, like, what do the old rules work for the kids these days? I mean, do the old rules about which bathroom you use work for the kids? Like, what structural, what is in place in the way we have structured society that is just not going to work for unforeseen reasons for these brilliant kids coming up? And so I decided to take that some laws in place that were there for very good reasons become tyrannical once the machines are actually people.
Yeah.
Which implies a belief that these large language models are proto-actual general intelligence, which they are not.
Yeah.
Well,
I've read
but
about
your
that.
argument, I don't know if the LLMs are like the evolutionary seed of your AI, but like your AI seemed to learn from being embodied, like that is one of the, I loved that idea, is that no AI can mature in isolation. It needs to have constraints and tactile sensory experience and interaction with the world in a body to even get to a point of intelligence where it becomes, I don't want to say more human, but more sentient and more intelligent. I love that idea. That doesn't seem to be it doesn't seem to be a direct evolutionary line from an LLM. it seems much more direct evolutionary line from our understanding of babies.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've been reading too. That some scientists have been positing that LLMs do not lead to general intelligence. That will be a different kind of technology that will get us there. But what I really liked how you spoke about it is that you're working in a tradition that basically use robots as metaphors, and that's the thing that I hope that your readers understand. That what is happening here is a sort of like metaphoric discussion of otherness and how science fiction for a long time has been able to talk about issues of justice and equality by using the stand-in of the robot. Like, it's a long, long tradition, and it's obvious here. I think as soon as you say it and put that in front of someone, it's like, oh yes, look at these people being subjugated and the way that they're being treated, even though they have gifts and they have so much to offer. So yeah, it's an interesting, tenuous, difficult time that we live in right now, where we come from a tradition that has been using this, and now the tradition has been at least somewhat upended by material facts of the world right now.
And people with a lot of money who keep misreading our books.
Oh my gosh!
Inventing the torment nexus,
or just exploiting the familiar language to. Because familiarity is comfort and popularity, comes out of that. So it's sort of like what has always been cool or subversive, let's make it mainstream and marketable, and it doesn't matter if it's beside the point,
I mean, I have never gotten over the fact that we can right now go to a convenience store and buy Soylent. Like, you can just go buy Soylent in different flavors. And it's just like, did you not see the movie? Did you not see the end of that movie? Like, why do they keep misreading science fiction and using it for nefarious marketing purposes? But it's just what you said, Claire. It's because it's familiar, it's in the zeitgeist, and that has cachet, I guess.
Because nerds have been made cool. I wanted to, because we only actually have a few minutes left. Oh my gosh, this is such a rich discussion. Really? We do. Yes, 3 minutes. But because we love hearing what you're reading and what you're playing, and I want to hear what Carlos is reading. Well, we both know what we've read. We've been reading Will Alexander's Sunward. And Carlos has been playing some awesome interactive fiction lately. I have not been playing games lately. But Will, what have you been reading and playing?
Okay. Super fast. I've been dipping in and out of Fran Wilde's marvelous short story collection.
Oh, that's right.
It just came out.
It just came out, right? That's awesome. We love Fran.
Yes. I'm loving that. Yeah, she had a novel and a book of short stories just come out. Okay, I just started and I'm halfway through Audition for the Fox.
I read that one.
I just finished Saint Death's Herald.
That's a familiar yellow book.
Absolutely delicious. I really love City in Glass.
Ooh.
Also, it's so good. So good. Rake's Fall, Vajrachanda Sekara.
Heard great things about that one. Heard great things about City in Glass.
Funk.
That looks great.
Kirsten.
Oh, I love Andrea. That woman can give a reading like nobody else.
Yes. And that right there, all of those books I just listed, I think literal or implied, the theatricality of each of them is just one of my favorite things.
Well, Andrea is a consummate performer. Marty is a consummate performer. Fran, I mean, Fran's very good. She's so artistic. Does she also have theater background? Because she has all the other backgrounds.
She has a really strong poetry background.
That's probably part
and
of it.
there's performance there.
Yeah.
And there's so much theater in Archangels of Funk. It's amazing. For nonfiction, I've been dipping in and out of Ada Palmer's Inventing the Renaissance, which is also a pandemic book. It's massive and it looks very serious, but the writing is casual, conversational, and hilarious. And the chapters are so short. They're just bite-sized chapters.
Bathroom reading, Will.
It's just sushi chapters. It's like, every dense, magnificent stuff, but it's so bite-sized in the way you actually consume this book.
Lovely.
Last one, a little Superman.
Is that a graphic novel?
Yeah, it's a new take on, it's a bit of a.
You don't have to mutter. You can be proud of your Superman love.
I'm proud of my Superman love. Well, yes, I was in the mood for some Superman, and and this one throws some punches at generative AI in a couple of different spots, which is lovely.
Interesting. We are
games, or are you waiting to play games with us this week?
I'm mostly waiting to play games with you. I haven't had time. I've dabbled in Hades 2 a tiny bit.
So you've downloaded
Carlos
it.
did Hades 1, but Carlos, have you done Hades 2 yet?
I haven't touched it yet. I mean, it's the middle of October and it's the semester, so January calls to me.
Listen to his melancholy voice. It does call you, baby. You can play all of Hades 2. I won't even bother you. I'll come watch.
Stop. We'll play together. All right. But it is 8 o'clock. We have reached that witching hour.
What? No! Do I get to hear what you're reading? Or?
Yeah. Well, you know what we're reading. We just read you. But Carlos, what are you playing? Just like two things.
It's just so I was just involved in the interactive fiction competition, and I placed a mighty 44th in the 85 entries that were in there. But it was a great learning experience. This was the first game I did. I did sort of like a short and what several people characterize as a shitposty game, which I am 100% behind. So my little shitposty game. Came in 44th, but what it's done is it's reintroduced me to the interactive fiction community, which is vibrant and full of PhDs, which maybe isn't that much of a surprise, but it's extremely highly intelligent, highly persnickety, highly iconoclastic group of people that are keeping the interactive tradition alive, both through Twine games that are more like choose your own adventure, and parser games like Zork, where you type, go north, or, you type your commands in that kind of way. Anyways, it's been a sort of remarkable reintroduction into that community. That's where I've been spending a lot of my month.
Titleist Rex says it's hilarious and very, very weird.
Yes, that is all factual. Great. And so, mostly this month I've been playing and reading, I guess, parser games. So if you go to ifcomp.org, you can see the winners and also the people who didn't win. You can see all 85 entries and, play to your heart's content. And I think it's if you ever had the bug of that choose your own adventure style or parser game style, it could be really fun to, take a peek at what the genre is looking like right now.
Meanwhile, I just went to my Mima's 95th birthday. It was big family reunion type, and my brother brought his copy of Dice Miner, which is a dice game that Carlos' friend Josh and Nick, those are their names, Josh and Nick designed.
Nico, yeah.
We have our version of Dice Miner, and I just have to say, it is so good for parties. It's so good for if people are having conversations, or one time Carlos was at a party and he was playing a 13-hour game of Negocios Infernales or something, and there were just a couple stragglers, and I just took out Dice Miner, and suddenly people who don't even normally play games are like, oh, can I play? Little kids sit, and uncles who are in their 60s and haven't played games, they all sort of sit, and everybody learns fairly quickly, and it's so fun to play. It's so tactile and hilarious and asymmetrical, and I recommend Dice Miner.
Yeah,
I'll make you play it with me, Will. Carlos will just have to. Carlos play tested the heck out of it when they were developing it. So
I like it. We'll play together. Well, it's better with a 3-player game anyway.
And it's a nice warm-up game for if we end up doing a 13-hour Negocios Infernales. We won't. It'll probably, with 3 of us, it'll be probably 3 hours. Or if we access our inner novelists, it might go to 4 or 5. But I think it probably won't be that epic game that was like a once-in-a-lifetime Negocios game that just went on.
We can all write novellas. We can...
Yeah, we can write novellas. All right. Oh my gosh, we ran a little late, but thank you so much, the chat.
Yes, thank you, chat.
There was a lot of praise for you, Will. They really loved the section, and there's several people who know even they want to read it for themselves and then want to buy it for 3 of their friends. So I wish that this will go forth and make ripples in the universe and in your bank account.
Yes, so thank you, everybody, and thank you, Will, so much for joining us and for sharing all of this insight into Sunward. And there's so much more that we didn't even scratch, so get out there, read it. It'll be a quick read, but don't read it too quickly. Savor those bits of language. There's a lot of poetic turns of phrase that you'll really enjoy as well.
And see you on Wednesday when you come to New York.
Yes, see you in person.
if you're local, anybody in the chat or people who are watching after, if you're local to the New York area, this week Will is in New York. He's doing an event on Thursday at Q and Willow, at Friday at Books of Wonder, and Saturday at the Brooklyn Public Library. So if any of those sound appealing, I do believe I posted all of that to my website. Will, have you posted it to yours?
I have posted it. Yes, I mean
posted
not to my
around-
website, but to various social medias. I
Yeah,
should have
so,
an events page.
You could follow
website. I
Will
don't.
at Blue Sky on Blue Sky and William Alexander, and then on Instagram at Goblinish Books, I believe.
Yes.
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 You can
And
find-
Carlos is also going to be in all three of those events.
Oh yes, that's
as
true.
well. Claire's going to be in the first one.
Yes, I will be. It will be very much like this event. In fact, the second
Yes.
event is about not about Sunward, but about Star Stuff, I believe, which is the middle grade
Yes.
anthology. That's the one on Friday at Books of Wonder. So
Excellent.
that's
That's the plan.
exciting. All right, thank you, friends.
Thank you, everybody. Good night,
Thank you
all.
all.
Bye bye now.
Bye.